"Emily, let's go and do that thing again," Jason said to his 7-year-old sister, Emily. And immediately tears welled up in Emily's yes. "No, Jason. I don't want to do it again. It is painful." Are you wondering what pushed these kids to the point of doing something so unimaginable as this? Join me as we discover the full story behind the story. The sound of Emily's cry echoed through the living room, startling Caroline as she stepped inside the house. She had just returned from another exhausting day managing her boutique, juggling phone calls and orders. "What now?" she muttered, her phone buzzing in her bag. "Mom!" Emily ran toward her, her face streaked with tears. "I want to tell you something." Caroline sighed, setting her handbag down. "Go to Jason and stay with him while I finish this call," she said distractedly, pulling out her phone. "I'll check on you in a minute." "But, Mom." "I said go to Jason, Emily," Caroline yelled. Emily hesitated, then turned away, sniffling. Jason, her 10-year-old brother, peeked out from the living room, holding a remote. "What's wrong with her?" he asked as Emily slumped onto the couch. "She's always whining," Caroline said under her breath before stepping into her home office to take her call. Jason sat beside Emily, flipping through channels. "Want to watch something fun?" he asked. Emily shook her head, clutching her stomach. She had been feeling unwell for days now, but every time she tried to explain, no one listened. Over the past few weeks, the two siblings had spent most of their time alone. With both their parents buried in work, the TV had become their babysitter. They'd watched everything from cartoons to shows they didn't fully understand. One evening, Jason stumbled upon a program featuring older kids engaging in a competitive reality show. It wasn't anything their parents had approved, but he found it fascinating. "Emily, come see this." Jason had called excitedly. Emily joined him, intrigued by the challenges and games the participants played. At first, it was all fun and harmless, but over time, Jason became fixated on replicating what he saw. He tried convincing Emily to join him in recreating some of the activities. "It's just a game," he'd say. But Emily often hesitated. "Jason, we shouldn't do that," she protested. "It doesn't look right. That's for adults." Jason, eager to play and unaware of the consequences, would insist. Sometimes, he'd remind her of moments she'd broken house rules, teasing that he'd tell their parents. "I will tell Mom and Dad about the day you are the chocolate," he would always say. Feeling pressured and afraid of getting in trouble, Emily reluctantly agreed. As the weeks passed, Emily grew quieter. She avoided her brother's games and spent more time in her room. Caroline barely noticed the change, preoccupied with growing her business. When Emily tried to speak up, Caroline would wave her off. Later, "Sweetheart. Mommy's busy right now." Even their father, Michael, was unavailable, spending long hours in meetings. When Emily approached him one evening, he simply ruffled her hair. "Whatever it is, tell your mom, okay? I'm swamped." "Mom doesn't listen," Emily whispered, but Michael had already walked away. One afternoon, Emily collapsed in the living room while Jason was watching TV. He panicked and called their mother, who rushed home to find her daughter pale and unresponsive. At the hospital, the doctor's words sent shockwaves through Caroline and Michael. "Your daughter has been under severe emotional and physical stress," Dr. Green explained. "We need to address this immediately." Caroline felt her heart sink. "How did this happen?" she asked, guilt washing over her. Dr. Green's gaze softened. "Children mimic what they see, especially when they lack guidance. What exactly do they watch on the television? We need to help her recover emotionally and ensure she feels safe." Caroline turned to Jason, who was sitting quietly in the corner. "Jason, is there something you want to tell me?" Jason hesitated, tears filling his eyes. "I didn't know she'd get hurt." I thought it was a game when we saw it on the screen, he whispered. Caroline's world spun as she realized how neglecting her children's emotional needs had allowed them to explore things they weren't ready for. She knelt in front of Jason, pulling him into a hug. "I'm so sorry," she said. "I should have been there for both of you." For the first time in years, Caroline vowed to put her family first. Caroline sat in the quiet hospital room, holding Emily's tiny hand as she slept. The doctor's words replayed in her mind, "Children mimic what they see, especially when left without proper guidance." She felt like a failure. How had she become so consumed by work that she hadn't noticed her children were crying out for help? Michael arrived shortly after, his tie loosened and his face drawn with concern. "How is she?" he asked, glancing at Emily and then at Caroline. "She's stable," Caroline replied softly. "But, Michael, we've failed them." Michael sighed, rubbing his temples. "I thought working hard was for their future. I didn't think." "That's just it," Caroline interrupted, her voice trembling. "We were so focused on giving them a future that we forgot about their present. They've been alone, watching God knows what on TV, and we didn't care enough to check in with them." Michael's gaze fell to the floor. "Where's Jason?" "In the waiting room," Caroline said, her tone heavy. "He's scared, and honestly, so am I." Michael found Jason in the waiting room, sitting in a corner with his knees pulled to his chest. His son, once so full of energy, now looked small and fragile. "Jason," Michael began, sitting beside him. "Can we talk?" Jason didn't look up. "I didn't mean to hurt her," he mumbled. Michael's chest tightened. "What happened, son? Tell me everything." Jason hesitated before finally opening up. He explained how he had discovered certain shows and thought they were fun. "I asked Emily to play, but she didn't want to. I told her I'd tell you she broke the rules if she didn't. I thought it was just a game." Michael closed his eyes, struggling to hold back tears. "Jason, you're too young to understand the damage this has caused, but this isn't your fault alone. Your mom and I should have been there for you. We should have known what you were watching, what you were doing." "I'm sorry, Dad," Jason whispered. Michael placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "We're all going to work through this, together. But you need to promise me something, Jason, no more secrets. If something feels wrong or confusing, you come to me or your mom, okay?" Jason nodded, tears streaming down his cheeks. When Emily woke up, the first thing she saw was her mother's face. Caroline smiled gently, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's forehead. "Hi, sweetheart," she said softly. Emily blinked up at her. "Are you mad at me?" Caroline's heart broke. "Mad? No, baby. I'm mad at myself for not listening to you sooner. But I promise, from now on, things will be different." Emily sniffled. "Are you going to stay home more?" Caroline nodded, tears in her eyes. "Yes. Daddy and I are going to make sure we're always here for you and Jason." The Walker household transformed in the weeks following Emily's hospital visit. Caroline and Michael reorganized their schedules, ensuring one of them was always home with the kids. They limited screen time, introduced family game nights, and encouraged open communication. Caroline also took Emily and Jason to therapy sessions, where they began to process what had happened. The counselor helped Jason understand the boundaries of play and the importance of respecting others' feelings. Emily, meanwhile, slowly found her voice, learning to express her emotions without fear of being ignored. Months later, on a quiet evening, the Walkers sat together in the living room. The TV was off, and the family was playing a board game. Emily laughed as Jason made a silly move, and Caroline couldn't help but smile. "See, this is what we've been missing," Michael said, shaking his head. Caroline reached for his hand. "Not anymore. We've learned our lesson." Emily looked up at her parents. Does this mean we'll always do things together now? Michael leaned down, kissing the top of her head. That's a promise. For the first time in a long while, the Walkers felt like a family again. They couldn't erase the past, but they could build a better future, together. Hello champions, I hope you enjoyed the stories. Please hit the like button, leave a comment below and subscribe to our channel. Thanks.